So patrons, another Patreon exclusive video. Today I want to show you a fun way how you can create polyphonic instruments in VCV Rack, not polyphonic oscillators and stuff like this, but actually recording samples, creating instruments with samples and playing them also polyphonically. Right, so here I have an example. I created a simple voice with two FM operators. Right, some FM, I'm mixing them. There is also some noise going on here with the FM input. It's going to a delay. For now, the delay is all the way down. I want to show you two examples. The first one is without a delay. It sounds like this. Right, nice and noisy. Now what I did, I recorded only one note, one C note. It doesn't really make sense if you sample more notes, because then you can just play polyphonically in VCV. It makes more sense when you record one note. I will show you also in a second why. And if you want, again, if it's a pitched instrument, record the note C, because then you can just transpose it everywhere and it will stay in tune. Now I used Simpliciter from nysthi, right, to record. You can do this anywhere. You can also use your DAW. There is just one trick you should keep in mind. So what I did, I will show you this in a second. What I did, I just recorded this note. I played it, recorded and stopped. I will do this now. Right. I recorded a longer note, of course. Right, and now here I have this sort of drone, of C drone. And what I did is, if you right-click Simpliciter here, this window, you can do the Aspen Store trick. And what it does, if I click it once, what it will do, it will split the sample in the center, and then it will flip the part. So it will take the right here to the left and the left to the right, and it will create here a crossfade, which means that it will loop perfectly. This sample will loop perfectly without clicks, without pops, without anything. So this is something you have to keep in mind. If you do this in the DAW, you can do this manually, right? You chop the sample in the middle, you switch the parts, and you create a crossfade in the center, and then it will loop perfectly. And this is important if you want to create those instruments, right? So this is how I recorded. Then I saved the sample. Now I will mute this for a second, and the tool we will use to create the instrument is another one from nysthi. It's the MusicalBox 2, and you have up to 16 channels that you can use, which means you can play polyphony of up to 16 different notes together. Now it's important, when you save the file, when you save the sample, save it in its own folder. Right, so you have one sample in one folder, in dedicated folder, and this is important because when you open here the WAV file, and I have something here prepared, this is the FM operator note. If you load it, you will see it will load it directly to the 16 slots. If you had more than one sample, it will load the first sample to the first slot, the second to the second, the third to the third, and so on. If you want only one sample, make sure it's in its own folder. It will make it much easier for you. So now we have 16 samples, right? I have here the output, the stereo output. Another tip, in the right-click menu here, we have also a limit for using a maximum of 2 megabyte samples. If you have samples that are bigger, turn this off, because otherwise it will not load them. Right, so now basically, right, I can play this sample, and I have 16 copies of it. Right. So what we can do, first of all, we want to control pitch. So I have here the MIDI module that I will use. You can use also a polyphonic sequencer. I have it set for 8 channels. In this example, I will show you 8, but again, this can go up to 16. So what we have to do, we have to split the pitch information, right? The polyphonic pitch information, the 8 channels, into 8 individual channels, and on the MusicalBox, the volt per octave input is here next to the octave knob. Maybe I can zoom in a bit. Right, it's here next to the octave knob. Right, so I'm just going to connect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Another tip I have for you, if you are using the MIDI module and you're using a MIDI keyboard, make sure the polyphony mode is set to reset. So every time you hit a key, it will start from channel 1, it will start from the first note, and it will not cycle through the notes. Of course, you can also experiment with rotate and reuse, but I found reset the best, right? So now I can also change the notes, right? So here we have 1, right? So we have also different notes. Now I want also to control the envelope of this, right? There are a few ways we can do this. I found the easiest to just use an envelope, an external envelope, right? I will use the gate. I will use the gate to gate the envelope, and now again this envelope is also polyphonic, so we have to split it as well. Again, this can go up to 16. I'm going to use just 8, right? I'm going to split the envelope, and here we have the VCA section with the volume. So I'm going to take the volume all the way down for all the 8 channels because I want them to be controlled with the envelope. And again, you can save this as a preset. You can save all of those settings as a preset and just load different samples. You don't have to do this all the time, right? And then I'm going to send the different channels of the envelope or the polyphonic envelopes to the VCAs, right? I can take the attack a bit up, a bit more decay, a bit more sustain, a bit more release. Right, and now I can actually play the notes. Let me see, this is playing. Okay, so first of all, we have to make sure that the samples are also playing. Again, there are a few ways you can do this. I found just setting them to cycle the easiest because then they will just keep on cycling and you will always meet them in different places, which is always fun. Right, so now we can play them polyphonically. Again, this is this one note that I recorded, this C note. Now, why is it different than a polyphonic oscillator in VCV? Because here again, we have one sample. This is why it's better to use just one sample. And when you play a lower pitch than it was recorded, a lower note, it will also play slower, and if you play a higher note, it will play faster, right? So you get this mixture of notes that are playing slower, that are playing quicker, the combination of them, right? Really fun for sound design. You can see the first 3 notes. The first one is running really quickly, the second one a bit slower, and the third one really slowly. Right, and like this you can really create interesting sounds, interesting pads, all sorts of different things. Now it doesn't end here. We have also individual outputs for each of them that we can use for processing each of those notes externally, and we can also pan them, right? So I can pan a bit left and right, something like this. This will stay in the middle, another left and right, and then another a bit here and there. Right, you can create really interesting sounds. Another thing you can do, you can decide, okay, I want 3 of those samples, 3 notes to play in reverse. Right, here we have the speed knob, so you can choose to play them by default quicker or slower, which will also change the pitch. You can change the octaves. But if I right click this, for example, let's say this one here, I want to change it to play in reverse. You right click it and you enter -1. So it will play the same speed, but in reverse. You can see this already here. This is running in reverse, right? It's going this way. Let's do this to 2 more. Let's say those 2 here also will run in reverse. And you get more variation. Right, again, really fun for sound design. Now I want to show you another example that I recorded, another sample. I will mute this for a second. Right, so here again we had this, this is now the FM operator. Right, I recorded this one note, but I also, as I mentioned before, I have also a delay here. So what I did, I recorded 2 notes and this went to the stereo delay. I recorded 2 C notes. Again, I kept it all in C so I can transpose it everywhere I want and it will stay in tune. Right, so I recorded just this. Right. And there is also the delay, I also recorded the delay. And again, I did this Aspen store trick. So again, it's cutting it in the center, switching the parts and cross-fading, right? Just so there are no clicks or anything. So let's see now if I can load it. Last time I tried it, it crashed. But let's see, I will remove all data, right? So it will remove everything. And all of this you can save as a preset, right? And just load different samples. So I'm going to load now the second sample is the FM op delay, right? And it will sound like this. This is muted, just a second. This is one note now I am holding. Right? And now I can also play chords. Right, so you can really play here with sound design, with all sorts of different ideas. Again, just make sure that when you record that they are looping perfectly, there are no clicks or anything. And also make sure to save the sample in its own folder so it's easier then to load in this MusicalBox. That's it. Again, save this as a preset. Share with me what you come up with. There are many things you can create with this, all sorts of interesting pads and stuff like this. I find it works best for pads and all sorts of chords and stuff. All right, that's it. Thank you again for your support. Cheers.